Hello, my name is Alice Gillenberger, and I'm an Assistant Director of Human Resources at the Allegheny Intermediate Unit. Today, I'm going to talk to you about indicators of child abuse and mandated reporters' right to know. Now let's get started. Now let's look at the definitions of child abuse. CPSL defines 5 categories of child abuse. They include serious physical injury, serious mental injury, sexual abuse or exploitation, serious physical neglect, and imminent risk. Serious physical injury, as defined by the CPSL, must be recent. If you suspect abuse, you must report it. For a physical injury to qualify for abuse, the law qualifies the abuse in one of 2 ways. Either it causes the child severe pain, or it significantly limits the child's functioning, either permanently or temporarily. The qualifier here is that the child's injuries cause him or her to lose the ability to do something. This would refer to a non-accidental type of injury to a child. Approximately 25% of the substantiated reports in Pennsylvania are for serious physical injury. Recognizing abuse isn't always easy, but some examples of abuse may be. Unexplained bruises. Most children have bruises from time to time due to play or accidents, but the location or severity of the bruising may be an indicator of abuse. Areas that may be suspect include bruises on the face, neck, wrists, black eyes, or a bruised mouth. Bite marks. Human bite marks leave a particular and distinct pattern. You want to note the size and area of the marks. If the bite mark is in an area the child can't possibly reach, like on their back or buttocks, that would be suspect. Cigarette burns or other pattern burns, like from an iron, may be an indicator of abuse. Immersion burns, where a child is scalded by hot water on the limbs, buttocks, or genitals, may be indicative of abuse. Signs of strangulation may include ligature marks or bruising on the child's neck. Pattern marks may be on the buttocks, back, or other parts of the child's body and appear to have been made by a belt or whip. Cut marks from a knife or sharp object may be an indicator of abuse. Other indicators may be broken bones, spiral fractures, head injury, or concussion. Serious mental injury is the least reported and substantiated in Pennsylvania. Only about 1% of the cases reported fall in this category. Serious mental injury is not emotional or mental abuse. While both contribute to serious mental injury, they won't meet the definition of child abuse on their own. It requires that a diagnosis is made by a physician or a licensed psychologist, which can be connected or attributed to the act or the failure to act of a perpetrator. Indicators of serious mental injury include depression, mental or emotional developmental delays, self-mutilation or self-injurious behaviors, suicide attempts, compulsive behaviors, antisocial behaviors, delinquent behaviors, alcohol or drug abuse, or neurotic traits. Although these symptoms are common among abused children, many factors can contribute to these listed symptoms that are not the result of abuse, and they should not be considered in isolation. Although a report regarding suspected abuse in this situation may be unfounded as child abuse, the case may be referred to the county agency for support and services. Again, serious mental injury is difficult to prove as it requires a diagnosis that is due to acts or omissions of their caretakers. Sexual abuse and exploitation may include physical and non-physical abuse. Engaging a child in sexually explicit conduct through coercion, enticement, or persuasion. Assisting others in sexually abusing a child. Any simulation of sexually explicit conduct for the purpose of videotaping, photographing, filming, or computer depicting. The rape, sexual assault, involuntary deviant sexual intercourse, aggravated indecent assault, molestation, prostitution, sexual abuse, or sexual exploitation of children. Approximately 65% of the reports of abuse in Pennsylvania are of sexual assault. In the majority of these cases, the perpetrator is someone close to the child, including family members and close acquaintances. CPSL standards in defining sexual abuse mirrors the criminal code, and it is a category that would be referred to law enforcement for criminal investigation. Some indicators are obvious as a result of the abuse. However, most of the time the child does not exhibit any signs of abuse. Again, other factors can contribute to these listed symptoms that are not the result of abuse and should not be considered in isolation. Behavioral indicators of sexual abuse include verbal disclosure, inappropriate sexual behavior, inappropriate sexual knowledge for age, layered or inappropriate clothing, hiding clothing, or lack of interest or involvement in activities. Again, other factors can contribute to the listed symptoms that are not the result of abuse and should not be considered in isolation. In most sexual abuse and exploitation cases, you will not see visible signs of sexual abuse. Behavioral indicators may be the first clue you have that a child is being sexually abused. If you have reasonable cause, you should report. If a child tells you they were a victim of any type of sexual abuse, you have an obligation to report. This type of abuse accounts for approximately 4% of the reported cases in Pennsylvania and is unique to Pennsylvania in its definition. Serious physical neglect, as defined by the CPSL, is persistent and prolonged failure to meet the physical needs of a child. It endangers the child's life or development or impairs the child's functioning, arises from repeated or prolonged lack of supervision, or failure to provide the essentials of life. Serious physical neglect often occurs from circumstances that have gone unaddressed for a period of time and/or that repeatedly occur. Often, they could have initially been referred to the county agency, but were permitted to worsen over time and are now considered neglect or abuse. Indicators of physical neglect include failure to thrive, delays in physical development, persistent hunger, speech disorders, poor hygiene, inappropriate dress, positive toxicology, consistent lack of supervision, chronic truancy, unattended physical or medical needs, or abandonment. Although these symptoms are common among abused or neglected children, many factors can contribute to these listed symptoms that are not the result of abuse and should not be considered in isolation. Neglect can be difficult to identify because some of the signs may actually be related to issues other than neglect. For example, children who are chronically hungry or have poor hygiene may not be the victims of abuse, but the signs may be directly related to poverty and its effects. However, it is better to report than not to report if you suspect abuse. Imminent risk is threatened to harm. It addresses circumstances where the child was not actually harmed, but would have been had it not been for happenstance, intervention of a third party, or the actions of the child. For example, a mother throws an iron at the child's head, which ends up breaking a lamp and misses the child only because the child ducked behind the furniture. The child's action in this example prevented what would have happened, causing a serious physical injury. Imminent risk is limited to a child under 18 years of age, incidents which occur within 2 years of the date of the report, non-accidental serious injury as defined by CPSL, sexual abuse or exploitation in the CPSL, and perpetrators as defined by the CPSL. While we have reviewed the definition of the 5 categories of child abuse as defined by the CPSL, remember, It is not the reporter's job to determine the type of abuse. The standard for mandated reporters is simply, if there is a reasonable cause to suspect child abuse, report it. The county agency will do the investigation. We've reviewed several topics. Now let's check for understanding. Please answer the following true or false statements. Signs of physical injury can include bruises, burns, and human bite marks. True or false? The answer is true. In addition to bruises, burns, and bite marks, other indicators may be apparent. If a child exhibits promiscuous or provocative behavior, she or he is exhibiting signs of serious mental injury. True or false? The answer is false. They're exhibiting signs of sexual abuse. Sexual abuse and exploitation can be considered both physical and non-physical abuse. True or false? The answer is true. Imminent risk takes into account things such as happenstance, the intervention of a third party, and/or the actions of a child. True or false? The answer is true. And don't forget that imminent risk addresses situations where the child was not actually harmed but could have been harmed. Thank you for your attention. Please proceed to the next module.